Welcome to a new episode of Extreme Reloading. Thanks for watching. In this episode, we're going to be working on bullet seating depth and the effect of different combined overall lengths on our accuracy for the Ruger Precision Rifle in .308 Winchester. Now I'm going to be working up 4 different loads. The first will be identical to what I've been loading up over the last bunch of episodes, and that combined overall length is 2.811 inches. Well, I'm going to adjust that just a little bit and go to 2.810. The reason for this is because I'm going to be trying to change the bullet seating depth by 1/100th of an inch in all cases. So if I start at 2.810, my next shorter combined overall length is going to be 2.800, and then I'm going to go even a step smaller to 2.790. Now that's 3 loads. My 4th load will be as long as I can possibly make it and still fit in the magazine and chamber in the rifle. I think my limitation is going to be fitting it into the magazine, but we'll find out. To make sure that my longest combined overall length load will work, number one, I can simply load a couple of them into the magazine. But I'm also going to load a dummy round. That's a round with no primer and no powder, simply using a nicely resized brass case. I'm going to seat that bullet in there at that long seating length, and I'm going to make sure that it can chamber into the rifle. If I feel a lot of resistance as I'm turning that bolt down, or for some reason I can't even close the bolt all the way, well, that means that I've gone a little bit too long and I need to back that out a little bit. I don't really think that's going to happen, but that's the technique that you use in those sort of situations. In my load with the 2.810 combined overall length, I'm going to be throwing 44.0 grains of RL15 behind it. For that longer or really long load I was talking about, I'm going to also charge that with 44 grains of RL15. Now as I make that shorter, a smaller or shorter combined overall length, the potential exists for me to be increasing pressures, and it's possible that I increase the pressures a little bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm reducing the charge on those shorter combined overall length loads, 2.800 and the 2.790 load. Now just how much should I reduce it? Well, I'm going to be going to 43.0 grains of RL15. Now of course I could dramatically reduce the powder charge, but what I also want to do is I want to make sure that those bullets are leaving the muzzle at pretty much the same velocity. I'm shooting for 2,600 feet per second, right around there. And I think by doing things in about this way, I should be right about where I want to be. And I can make adjustments later on. I want to be safe. That's job number 1. And I also want to make a very fair and equitable comparison between these different loads. Now you might be wondering, why do this? Well, a couple of reasons. Right now, the accuracy or precision that I'm getting with these loads is okay. It's all right. I mean, it's, 100 yards, I'm getting half MOA. 200 yards, I'm getting right around MOA, a little bit less than that. But what I should be getting really is about quarter MOA at 100 yards. And even I've already posted a quarter MOA 3-shot group at 300 yards with the same rifle. That's what I'm looking for. So I want to keep shrinking these group sizes. I want to have very consistent ammo. And my step now is to look at the effect of different combined overall lengths on that accuracy. And what really matters is a thing we call jump. So as the bullet leaves this case, what is the distance from that point until this bullet impacts or makes contact with the lands? This region in the barrel is called the throat, and more normally called the lead area. Now in some rifles, it's best to seat that bullet just 1/1000th of an inch or so, maybe 2/1000ths of an inch away from the lands themselves, off of the rifling. And a lot of folks think that that is the case no matter what. That's not always the case. That was the case for my 220 Swift, but it certainly was not the case for the 243 Winchester. In fact, my 243 Winchester posted some pretty bad groups when it was seated really, really close up to that rifling. But as I backed it off and backed it off and backed it off, shorter combined overall length, my groups got smaller and smaller and smaller until I achieved what I was looking for. You know, looking at quarter MOA type of groups out over various distances. Now, one of the reasons why I left this to a latter part of my reloading process for the .308 Winchester and the Ruger Precision Rifle is because this step is very bullet specific. So at this point, I've pretty much chosen the Sierra Tipped Match King in 168 grains. It has consistently produced just a little bit smaller groups for me in all cases, and that could be in factory ammo or in all the stuff I've been reloading. Now, the reason why this whole step is very bullet specific is because even while this is a 168 grain bullet and this is a 168 grain bullet and this Nosler Custom Competition is also a 168 grain bullet, they don't share precisely the same shape. And so that point of the ogive that actually does make first contact with the rifling is going to be a little bit different with each of these bullets. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, so what I have here is a simulated rifle barrel. Oh, it's a piece of oak doweling. And what I did is I drilled out a 19/64 hole. That's essentially a 30 caliber, .296. So we could say that this simulates the lands okay. Now if I simply take this 168 grain Sierra Tipped Match King bullet and I drop it in, that's the point where the bullet naturally strikes the lands, or the simulated lands. And if I mark this carefully, I can then measure that point. Now that point is 0.4845 of an inch. Let's repeat that process for the Nosler Custom Competition. Also 168 grain bullet. And that's the natural point where it would impact our simulated land. Marked it. This one measures 0.4575. Now let's try the Hornady ELD. Marked it. Let's measure it. This one is 0.5315. See, all three of those are different. Now, while this doesn't definitively say this is exactly the same as a Ruger Precision Rifle barrel, it clearly demonstrates that these bullets, while they are the same grain in weight, 168 grains, they are different in shape. And for that reason, not only are they going to fly different, but that point, that jump point, is going to be different. And so the way that we seat it in those cases is going to have to be handled differently. We might find out that this gun likes the bullets seated, let's just say 5/1000ths away from the lands. That's going to be one combined overall length measurement for the Sierra Tipped Match King, and a different combined overall length for the Hornady ELD match, and yet a different one for the Nosler Custom Competition. So a bullet seating die doesn't really seat to a specific combined overall length. That is the end result. But what it's doing is it is inserting this bullet to have a specific distance from the mouth of the case. Let me demonstrate this. So if we have a bullet seating die set to allow this bullet to protrude from the mouth of the case by exactly 1 inch, that would mean that the meplat of the bullet would sit, about there, and the mouth of that case would be approximately there, which would mean that the balance, or the difference between 1 inch and the remainder of the bullet, that amount of the bullet sits inside the case itself. Well, of course, that's going to differ if this is a Hornady case. A Hornady bullet, a Nosler bullet, or a Sierra bullet. Now you might be thinking, well, isn't the length of the case plus 1 inch going to give you your combined overall length? And therefore, you're going to have the same combined overall length for this and this and this. Well, in theory, yes, but that's not how the bullet seating die actually works, because it doesn't seat the bullet by pushing on the meplat. We don't even want that, in fact, because by doing so, we would then deform the meplat of that bullet and have some reduction in accuracy, even if that meplat is metal. Now, what the bullet seating dies do is they have a cup, and that cup will make contact with the bullet somewhere along that ogive, a little bit more out here, whatever. And that is going to be very bullet specific. So, if we have a given bullet seating die set for this bullet, Sierra tipped Match King, we're not going to have the same combined overall length as we do for the Hornady ELD match or the Nosler Custom Competition. The other thing that's going to be happening is that these bullets are going to occupy more or less of the case itself, thereby affecting the pressures and the resulting velocities. Okay, this set of 5 is using my standard, or the same combined overall length I have been utilizing throughout this entire series of videos. And I'm using 168 grain Sierra tipped Match King bullets. And every one of these bullets, I've weighed them and sorted them, so we're real consistent that way. Now what we've been getting is 2.811 or 2.812. So according to Redding, each one of these increments is equal to 1/1000th of an inch. So I'm going to dial this back and reseat it exactly where I want this, 2.810. So it's time to set up this Redding seating die to kind of give me a maximum combined overall length. I want to go as far out as I can as possible and still yet fit the round in this magazine. The other thing I need to do is to make sure that the round still chambers in this Ruger Precision rifle. So to do that safely, I'm going to be using a dummy round. No primer, no powder, but this is a nicely prepared, happens to be a Hornady case. Neck turned, the whole deal, just like we've been doing. And I've backed this thing out to really quite a long setting. So there we go. That's a long combined overall length. And as we can see, that does not fit into this magazine. The maximum length for the mag, this is a Magpul mag, the ones that come with the Ruger Precision Rifle. This is about 2.827, 2.828. And this cartridge is 2.9, 2.91. So I need to lose 82 thousandths, or let's say 800ths of an inch. Another beauty part about this Redding die is that every full revolution is equal to 5/100ths of an inch. I'm going to drop it. That'll give me 5/100ths of an inch. That is 7/100ths of an inch. And finally, 8/100ths of an inch. That's pretty good. 2.829. I think I'm going to want to shave just a little bit more off of this. It is right to the edge. You know, that's some pretty impressive equipment actually, and the precision at which this is made. I'm going to run this through the Ruger Precision Rifle. Make sure that it chambers. Okay, good news. Those that dummy round chambered very, very nicely. No resistance felt at all, so it's not contacting the rifling already. And the index here is set at 0.89. The previous index was 0.71. Again, using the same sorted by weight Sierra 168.0 grain tipped Match Kings. Now we're looking for 2.800. I've already adjusted the bullet seating die. There we have it, 2.800. I mean, dialing this thing is just like simple. Works really, really well. This is the Redding Competition bullet seating die. Once again, there we go. 2.790. Yards. Upper left corner. Now we've completed our 4 5-shot groups. Here's our resulting target. Now I shot these groups in a clockwise fashion, starting with the upper left target, and that was with bullets seated with a combined overall length of 2.827 of an inch, or 2.83. This was the ones that I could seat as far out as possible and still get them to function through the magazine. Then I shot the upper right target with a slightly shorter combined overall length, and this was the 2.810, followed by 2.800 in the lower right, and finally the shortest of my combined overall lengths with a 2.790. Now, were you expecting that? You know, in many ways I was expecting either this one to do the best or that one. In other words, either the longest combined overall length or the shortest. That has kind of been my experience with various different rifles. So let's take a closer look at each of these, starting with the 2.83 inch combined overall length. You saw this one with the remote camera just a little bit ago, and you know, kind of we don't even have a group here. We have some stringing right along here, and again, some of this is the shooter, the person behind the trigger. That would be me. But you know, this is 200 yards. It's not a terrible 3-shot MOA, but boy, it's hard to even pick up what would be the best of the 3. Moving to the next, the 2.810. This is another one where it's kind of hard to pick up where the best 3-shot group is. This one, kind of anomalous, way off to the side and a little bit low here. But this was my 3-shot group, right around half MOA at this 200-yard range. 2.800 combined overall length. You know, this one here is just like a flyer. And in fact, this whole group, while we do see a clear group forming here, the group did worse than anticipated. I will call this whole thing a little bit of an anomaly. We are now slightly higher than 1/2 MOA. And it kind of breaks the trend that we were seeing. But maybe it's the exception that proves the rule. But then lastly, here we see a very nice group, but what you may not notice is that this is 2 bullets. So my 3-shot group is right here. Now that's a fantastic group, and even this 4th shot was very nice, and it got again another one of a flyer of some sort. Is that me? Is that bullet jump or whatever? I don't know. I see that fairly frequently, and so maybe it's me doing that sort of thing somehow. But let's concentrate on this. This is a .15 MOA 3-shot group. Now let's analyze this trend. Here I've graphed the groups by combined overall length along the x-axis and MOA along the y-axis. And here we're seeing that this group right here, the 2.80 combined overall length, acts like an anomaly, just like I noted a little bit earlier. When we remove that 2.8 grouping, we see a very clear trend has been established, and in fact it's a perfect fit from a very long combined overall length. Essentially, the shorter we make that thing within reason, the better the group becomes. So as we've gone through episode after episode of reloading for the Ruger Precision Rifle, we've kind of whittled down the load details. And what we're seeing right now is that a combined overall length of 2.79 inches with the Sierra Tipped Match King 168 grain bullet. Looks like we have a very nice load setup. And what we're going to do next, we're going to start looking at some of these ballistic calculators. And that's our next episode of Extreme Reloading. Thanks for watching.